And the other big thing, which is very exciting, I'm really pleased at how pleased I am about it, is I've downloaded a new bit of audio recording software. I've decided to upgrade, and it's just great. It's a fab new toy. I love it.
You are happiest with your toys.
And
I have to say, over the last few years, I've learned that.
Yeah, and but the thing about it, the reason I'm happy with it as a toy is that it has to be useful. So just as a toy itself, no, but it has to be useful and really deliver a benefit. It's made recording a lot easier.
I love when you talk about your toys because, first of all, you're really happy about them and you're really excited about them. But you're not one of these people that says, okay, well now, now like the work is done because we've got this shiny new thing and that's that. Like, you're much more than that. Whereas other people that just like, yeah, okay, you bought a new tennis racket. It costs £200.
Well, I think
you're still an awful player.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it makes no difference, then what's the big? Because there are people I know that I've met that would buy a lot of kit and then they just flash all their kit and
yeah.
And it's bragging rights. Oh, I've got the latest golf clubs. I have the most expensive golf clubs ever, and it's okay, big deal. But if someone says, I just bought these new clubs, I'm just loving the way that they play. That's a bit different. I'm interested in the experience that it gives them.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And the nice thing about it is if you're looking forward to using a tool, I think you're probably going to do a better job.
It definitely like eliminates some of the hurdles or barriers, sort of mental barriers that we have to getting something done.
Yeah.
And if it's just enough to say, when you're just in the mood, like, well, I should start this, but I really don't want to start it. If the new tool says, oh yeah, well, let me just try to get it set up, because this new tool is good, and then you'll get it set up and then you're like, well, let me just try one, let me just try one sample bit, and 4 hours later, like you're, waist deep in the project.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
I think that's right, and it's all about contributing to flow, and certainly this has de-stressed parts of the recording process and the whole editing production process that I sort of hadn't realised were quite as stressful as they clearly were, and it just goes so much more smoothly now, and I can do so much more. So it really energized me in a way that I was quite surprised at, and. But you're absolutely right. It really can make a big difference if you can find something like that. I remember seems rather an odd example really when I tell it, but a few years ago when I was still in employment and I was in a position where I was having to provide lots of data and do lots of analyses, I had this project where I had to write up a whole host of stuff. It really was going to be a slog. I was going to have to read lots of papers and read lots of data and write a report and put it all together, and I really wasn't looking forward to it. I was putting it off. And then I thought, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to treat myself and buy myself a really nice fountain pen.
Okay.
And I hadn't used a fountain pen for years. And eventually I was going to have to put all this stuff into an electronic form. So you might think, okay, well, why didn't you just type it in? But I just thought, no, I'm going to just go home. I'm going to work from home on this one. I'm going to buy this fountain pen. So I did. And spent some money, not over the top, but a really decent quality one. Really enjoyed buying it as well. The guy in the store was really knowledgeable and friendly and enthusiastic. And then I set aside 2 days to do this slog through this data, and it worked. I just so enjoyed using the fountain pen and writing this stuff down, and that it really helped me through it. And then when I'd got it all there, it was all down. It was a pretty straightforward task of transferring it from the hard copy into the electronic form, and away it went. And I was really struck by that.
I like that story a lot. I think that those things can work. They don't always work, but I think that I'll call it a gimmick. I think that a little gimmick like that can actually make the difference. Like it overcomes the first barrier, which could prove to be the only barrier.
Yeah.
So I can see people taking it too far and saying, okay, well, the gimmick this time is that we're going to take the entire team to Aruba for a month. That's really expensive. But buying a fountain pen, that's a nice little trick.
Yeah. Yeah. Relative.
I can see myself buying like a special little notebook that costs more than it should, so that you can go to your favorite coffee house and get sort of nestled in and, pout around for a while. And then, you take your good notes on this and that helps. I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that working.
I think that's right. And in fact, you mentioned something there, which I think is also a good trick to get you going is choose a really fun location, somewhere you like to go.
Yeah.
I've had that before. I mean, I used to use that trick a lot when I had some reading to do, and it was having to read some stuff that was, fairly tedious. I knew it was going to be fairly dry, and I had to just sort of sit down and get on with it. And I did find going to a nice coffee shop that I like, with a comfy seat, really helped. I'd get down and I'd read this book, and before I knew where I was, it was 2 hours gone, and I'd pretty much broken the back of it, of the reading.
Yeah.
So it's those tricks can really make a difference.
That's a technique that works generally well for me. If I'm working on a problem that I'm thinking about actively, mm-hmm. and I'm in a good flow state, but I really want to get the thoughts structured and organized down to a single piece of paper and then proceed with the work. The important thing for me to do once I get to that position where I need to get my thoughts down on a single piece of paper is to actually physically change my location. Mm. So I'll leave my home and go to one of a bunch of places. It could be a diner, it could be a coffee shop, it could be the library. I'll just pick the one that feels right for whatever I'm working on, and just physically go to a new space. And that enables me to just get that extra bit of focus so that I can doodle on a couple pieces of paper for a while. And a very high percentage of time, I leave with the one page of organized thoughts that I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because it is purely a psychological trick, because the work that you do once you've got yourself kickstarted is probably no different from the work you could have done in your regular place with your regular pen or your usual audio editing software. But it's your brain that needed to be retuned,
exactly right,
refocused. Yep. And that's what that. So the work is done, and maybe the work is better for using the new audio software or being in the coffee shop or using your fountain pen than it would have been otherwise. But it's not because of the pen, the coffee shop, or the software.
Right. That's why I refer to it as a gimmick.
Yeah.
It's not the reason. It's just the impetus that is being used for this.
Yeah.
And the area that I live in. So what's funny to me is I can't explain why this particular problem is a filter problem or a Tallulah's problem or a library problem or a diner problem. I don't know, but it's just like there's some kind of is that how it works then? When you've hit one of these mental roadblocks, you look at it and then you look at the library of places and say, okay, no, this is definitely a filter coffee shop problem. That's what so I better go there. I just it's like, okay, I need to go somewhere and I need to sort this out. And like, how is this going to work? And then I imagine myself like doing the work, but it's like, okay, do I imagine myself in Two Stones or the Chinese restaurant or the library or the coffee shop? And sometimes it's like coffee shops that I only go to once a year. I just kind of imagine the place where this will go down.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I come up with that, but for some reason one emerges. And it's like I said, it has an unusually high degree of success. It's never a guarantee, but
right.
It's another step. And I could imagine for other people, it might be notebooks or it might be pens or, it could be, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But as long as they're cheap.
Yeah.
Much value.
When I used to write plays, the one thing that really helped for me, and I really built it into my workflow, was going for a walk. So I would sit at the computer, I'd be trying to work a scene out, know what I want to do. But it really made a huge difference in terms of getting ourselves going on the dialogue. So I knew what I wanted to do in the scene, but it just wasn't coming together as a scene. I wasn't getting the dialogue that I wanted. I wasn't getting the interaction. So I would go for a walk and I would play with it and think it through. And the interesting thing for me was that when I did that, it wasn't as though I ended up with all the dialogue in my head when I got back that then I could then put down and that was the work done. What I found and what worked when it worked is that I didn't come back with all the dialogue. I would come back with a very short snippet of dialogue. It may just be one phrase that one character says, or it may be a short exchange between two or more characters. But that would be the kickstart. That would be the catalyst, because I would get back, type that in, and then as I read that, oh, right, that showed me the path forward and the way I would go. But I knew I wasn't going to get that starter. I wasn't going to get that catalyst by just sitting staring at the screen. I had to go out for a walk, and usually a fairly energetic walk. I would walk quite quickly. So it was obviously an exercise thing that was going on there. And then I would just fall in love with this phrase, this interchange, and that would be enough.
I've had similar experiences with walking, and I agree with you that you don't get the whole thing solved. You just get one good bit of it. But often that's enough to just remove the barrier that was there. And then, I mean, you don't know how far it is until the next barrier, but sometimes it's quite a long way to the next barrier. So you just get an awful lot done.
Yeah.
So
you get on a roll and you're away. You're in flow and it's happening. Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Cool tricks.
That's good.
Cool tricks.